It's believed that the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, said that whoever writes the Basmala well will enter paradise without difficulty. For over 1400 years, calligraphers have been writing the Basmala in an endless number of ways and have risen to the opportunity and challenge to beautify the word of God. The seeds of the art of Islamic penmanship were sown when the very first verses were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in 610 AD. Iqra, recite in the name of thy Lord, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. These verses sanctified the use of the pen from the birth of Islam, and for Muslims are deemed miraculous because the Prophet himself was illiterate. The art of Islamic calligraphy had humble beginnings, as artistic considerations were not a concern for the original Quran copyists. Their immediate purpose was to preserve the accuracy of God's revelation. At the outset, two rudimentary forms of script existed. One was angled and was reserved for Quran writing and important correspondence. This was known as Kufi or Kufic, believed to be named after the city Kufa in Iraq. The other form, which was more rounded and cursive, could be written a lot more quickly and was reserved for secular or day-to-day purposes. From these two forms, many other variants emerged. Initially, the Quran was written in the Hijazi or Mecca script on parchment. The Hijazi script is notable for its letters that slope or lean towards the right, and at this stage does not contain any markers for vowel sounds. One of the most remarkable examples of early Islamic Kufic script is found in the splendid mosaic decorations of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Built in the 7th century, just 60 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, Muslim artisans were quick to borrow and adapt from Byzantine Christian artistic traditions to make their own visual artistic identity. Under the Umayyad Caliphate in the 7th and 8th centuries, writing evolved and spread quickly in Damascus, the capital of the Arab Empire. At the time, as the script was written without any vowel signs and the use of diacritical points was sporadic, this left the possibility of variant readings. This was unsuitable for the preservation of God's revelation, and significant changes were introduced. The unique and famous Blue Quran is a stunning example of early Islamic Kufic script. The extraordinary blue of this Quran, that possibly dates from the 10th century Islamic Spain, remains just as vibrant after all these years and is even more remarkable because it's written in gold. Calligraphers and artists today take their inspiration from their surroundings, and I'd like to think that the calligrapher of the Blue Quran was inspired by the gorgeous blue and gold mosaics found in the mihrab of the Mosque of Cordoba in Spain. In time, the script was perfected into a vehicle suitable for recording the Quran with precision, whereby consonants were distinguished by means of short slants and vowel markers by coloured dots. The system which succeeded this one, and the one which we still have in use today, is whereby short slant lines are vowels and diacritical points or dots are used to distinguish consonants. But while early Kufic script is easy to distinguish because of its clear, bold letter shapes, it is difficult to read. By the end of the 10th century, two distinct forms of Kufic emerged: Eastern and Western Kufic. Western Kufic, otherwise known as Maghrebi script, has many variants. It was used in North and West Africa as well as Islamic Spain. It is easy to distinguish because of the large circular loops that drop beneath the baseline. Kufic gradually went out of use, and after the 13th century, it was largely reserved for book headings and monuments where foliated or interlaced versions were found. However, it continued to flourish in North Africa and Andalusia. The desire to improve and codify writing continued. Under the Abbasids, the arts and science flourished, especially in the main capital, Baghdad. The Abbasid Wazir Ibn Muqla, who died in 940 AD, was responsible for inventing a system of proportional writing called Al-Khat al-Mansub. His methodology was applied to 6 already existing cursive scripts known as Aqlam as-Sitta. They are Thuluth, Nasr, Muhaqqaq, Rayhani, Tawqi', and Wiqa'. Ibn Muqla's efforts to reform the early cursive scripts provided for the first time an adequate alternative to the traditional variant of Kufic used for writing sacred texts. The angular scripts previously favoured for writing the Quran were abandoned in favour of the newly reformed cursive scripts. The transformation from angular to cursive in Qurans is one of the most significant developments in Islamic penmanship, though the reasons why are unclear. One of the earliest Qurans to represent this change is a manuscript written in the hand of a calligrapher called Ibn al-Bawwab, meaning the son of a doorman, and is dated from 1001 AD. Written in Rayhani script, which is notable for its legibility and elegance, this Quran is also remarkable because it's one of the earliest dated Qurans written on paper. Paper must have been an exciting new technology for calligraphers at the time, as it would have opened up new opportunities for them, for example, to write at a larger scale. Also, as a more affordable option to the animal, parchment and vellum used previously, it meant that it could allow the possibility of experimentation. The celebrated 13th century calligrapher Yaqut al-Mustasimi, also working in Baghdad, wrote the finest examples of the Aqlam as-Sitta. He adhered to the rules introduced by Ibn Muqla and developed by Ibn al-Bawwab. Yaqut introduced further changes. He made the angle cut of the nib more oblique and widened the tip. A Yaquti school was established during his lifetime, and 6 of his students, along with himself, became well known as the 7 Masters. After Yaqut's death, his students carried his method of writing the 6 scripts from Baghdad to Egypt, Syria, Anatolia, Iran, and Central Asia. Ahmad as-Suhrawadi was one of Yaqut's famous students. He was responsible for popularizing the proportion scripts and disseminating the method outside of Baghdad. New generations of calligraphers dedicate themselves to Yaqut's method. Over time, it lost its originality. Under the Ottomans, calligraphy transforms and evolves. Some of the most beautiful Qurans can be attributed to the Mamluk era. The famous Sultan Barquq's Quran from 14th century Egypt is a splendid example of how writing comes into play with the 2 other principles of Islamic art, namely geometry and biomorphic designs. Together, the 3 form an extraordinary combination. The development of Islamic calligraphy goes from strength to strength, and an exceptional example of the level of achievement in book arts by the 16th century is the Quran transcribed by the calligrapher Ruzbihan from Shiraz in Iran. Written in Nasr and Thuluth scripts, the calligraphy merges with the illumination to make a masterpiece. It is under the Ottoman Turks that calligraphy reaches new heights. The Turks converted to Islam and adopted the Arabic alphabet in the 10th century. Unfortunately, it seems that no early works from this period survived. While taken into account all the developments of the previous 9 centuries, Ottoman calligraphers sought further refinement. The genealogy of Ottoman calligraphers starts with Shaykh Hamdullah, who died in 1520 AD. He began emulating the style of Yaqut al-Mustasimi. Encouraged by his patron and student Sultan Bayezid II, he went on to develop his own approach. Shaykh Hamdullah marks the start of Ottoman leadership in calligraphy. Out of the many scripts, Thuluth and Nasr were favoured by the Ottomans. Nasr, or Nasi as it is known in Ottoman Turkish, must be arranged in long lines, which means it's not suitable for complicated compositions. However, it's ideal for writing long texts, such as the Quran or Hadith, which are sayings of the Prophet, or prayer books. Thuluth, or sulus as it is known in Turkey, is the most responsive to artistic treatment. Its rounded and elastic nature gives calligraphers the greatest scope for creating compositions. The advantages of thuluth are especially striking in the case of jali thuluth, meaning large, which is written with a wide nib pen and can be enlarged for architectural inscriptions, traditionally by means of squaring. The late 19th century calligrapher Kazaska Mustafa Izzet Effendi was renowned for his monumental works in jali thuluth. Perhaps his most famous pieces are the magnificent roundels that are in the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the establishment of the Turkish Republic in 1923, Islam was removed as the state religion and the Arabic alphabet was replaced by a modified Latin one. This had tremendous consequences on the practitioners of Islamic calligraphy. As the old masters were dying and interest in the art was declining, it seemed as if the art would be lost forever. However, calligraphy in Turkey has managed to regain, if not surpass, the strength it once had. The evolution of Ottoman calligraphy involved a process of refining and elaborating new methods without distorting the essential letter forms. Vowel signs and diacritical points acquired decorative qualities, enabling calligraphers to create the most elaborate yet balanced compositions. Islamic calligraphy is inextricably linked to the faith, so that wherever Islam spread, the art form took on a different nuance, whether a Quran from Sudan or a calligraphic elephant from the Indian subcontinent. Muslim calligraphers in China developed their own script called Sini, which is still in use today. A beautiful example of this style can be found on a bronze vase in the Oriental Museum in Durham. The cast inscriptions in Arabic give the first words of the Shahada, the Muslim testimony of faith. La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah. Today, there are a selection of scripts that are popular amongst calligraphers. Interestingly, some of the older ones, such as Muhakkak and Tawqid, are experiencing a revival. I have been fortunate enough to train with the Yaquts and the Hamdullahs of my time. And while the traditional methods of calligraphy endure, the art continues to evolve. Digital technology is offering contemporary artists and calligraphers opportunities to be inventive with Arabic script. In my own work, I have experimented in virtual reality and animation, but ultimately, the work originates in pen and ink on paper. Many Muslim and Arab artists in the world today turn to the Arabic script as a source of inspiration for their work. The use of letters as graphic shapes, where their core value lies in their arrangement and colour, reflects a break in the art from its primarily pious connections. To summarise, the rudimentary scripts that were initially used to record the Quran developed into a highly sophisticated written expression that resulted from the need to record the divine word down accurately. Islamic calligraphy in its traditional form will continue to flourish as it is not subject to passing trends. Regardless of time, people and places, the main tool will always be the pen, so the art will continue to be associated with the sacred. The continuity and revival of Islamic calligraphy, whether traditional Islamic penmanship or contemporary calligraphic art, may be seen as different branches of the same tree.